1996, I know him since then or even before, to focus on IT services. As an expert in the IT infrastructure and related services, he assists customers in aligning IT with their business models. He provides consulting services to corporates in areas such as bulletproofing, IT infrastructure, very timely again for today, blueprint for cloud migration into business, including business benefits, cost saving and risk mitigation. He has vast experience, as I said, in data center, local area networking, wide area networking, etc. He is having his company managing 200 people workforce with 2 levels of managerial structure, and he has successfully created service standards as FutureNet, and with high levels of course, response and turnaround time. What I would like to add here, probably, which I don't find it in his profile, is the help he is doing for the chamber, and especially in the recent past with the MGR Medical University. Probably would have seen some of the press release from the MGR University about the Madras Chambers Association with them in improving their IT infrastructure. Lot of such credits I should give to Mr. Ashok. Should I leave now, sign off now, and leave it to Mr. Ashok to take it forward? Ashok, please.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And good afternoon to everybody. I think this COVID has probably brought in a new whole lot of possibility. Maybe most of us are now becoming radio jockeys and video jockeys, trying to share our views with other people and conducting programs. So thank you for sparing the afternoon. And I know this is a very difficult session post-lunch, but I'm sure since we are all sitting at home, we can take it at our leisure and understand what is happening. It's been a request from many members in the chamber, and in particular general committee members, that we need to put together a program on information security, especially in the current context where everybody is working from home. So the challenges when everybody is going to be under one roof, managing them, is completely different when the workforce is going to go out of the office and going to connect back to office or the office infrastructure to draw the requirement. So this has been the requirement now, because this COVID has come, and then all of a sudden we all moved back to home, and then we are trying to embrace technology to conduct our life and also the business. So with that pre-note, we have said we will put together this program, and I'm very, very happy and thankful to all the speakers here, starting from Praveen and Shobna, Dr. Rama and Vital, for being here and sharing their very, very rich experience. We've got a wonderful speakers today who's going to share their experiences in the next 1.5 hours. So with that, I have a great privilege in introducing Mr. Praveen Sashidharan. It's quite impressive CV, I should say, that I've gone through. And he's a partner in cyber risk services working for Deloitte, and comes with a very rich experience of 18 years in developing and managing and advising global enterprises on various aspects of cyber risk services, cyber strategy and operations, crisis management, risk management and compliances, and product security. In specific, he's specializing in IoT. I'm sure that this is going to be very good knowledge sharing session from him. And he currently leads innovation and some key cyber risk offerings for Deloitte. And he's got a very long CV. I'm just trying to, considering the time, I'm just trying to read the highlights. And he has lived and worked across the globe and led multiple cross-cultural teams in implementing complex solutions. He had worked in clients across the range of industries with a very strong domain knowledge, including BFSI, technology, which is information technology, telecom, and manufacturing. He has actively participated in many industry forums like DSCI, NASSCOM, IAPP, and others. He has also been the speaker and a panel member at various national and international forums, and have spoken on topics related to cybersecurity, privacy, regulatory, cybercrime, business continuity, IoT, crisis management, and vendor risk management. His specialties include program management, crisis management, product security, which is in specific IoT, vendor risk, cybersecurity strategy, and operations and privacy. I think crisis management and the product security, and with this deep experience in cybercrime and advisory services, going to help us today. And I'm as eager as each one of you to listen to Praveen. Over to Praveen.
Thank you, Ashok, and thank you for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for the introduction as well. So, good afternoon to everyone. And what I would be doing in the next 20-25 minutes is to give a quick walkthrough of what we are seeing right now in today's world of COVID, and what are the aspects that we would have to look into. I would also touch upon, as we are going about, on the challenges that is also being faced, and finally, closing it by certain do's and don'ts. Like Ashok and Rama mentioned, saying that we would be having a detailed discussion after this, and there would be practical concepts which would be shared. So please feel free to post your questions on the question and answer session, and we would be glad to address that. To start off with, we are all very familiar with the work from home scenario which has been enforced because of the COVID being one of those major crises. Now, based on what we have looked into before COVID scenario, which is 27% of the users globally have been working remotely on an average on a weekday basis. And this is based on various articles which has been published and studies which has been done. But what COVID has done is, in the last, from 31st of March onwards, we went on a lockdown nationwide from 23rd onwards. But by 31st of March 2020, more than 60% of users have started working remotely, which is a huge number, and in a consideration, and you should look into that from a perspective of around a large workforce in India that we have. 60% of the people have started working from home. There was one point that we were working on, which was called what we call as the future of work, which is basically looking into the different aspects which is coming in, whether it is the industry 4.0 and digitalization, automation, and various other aspects. And some of those studies before the COVID was suggesting that we would reach a percentage of 73% of working from home or working from different remote places, and that would be achieved in the next 5 to 6 years. So 2025, 2026 is what we were looking at. But now what COVID has done, and as you can see from this structure, is that it has speeded up the activity of technology adoption, and also speeded up the adoption of remote working. So it has actually pushed the curve. So though, if you look into that diagram that is there in front of the screen, the hard lines or the solid lines are the ones that we were looking at, and the dotted lines is what has been pushed, or the curve has been pushed on a basis the COVID which has come in. The other point to be noted is that technology was already ready, right? And it was something which was there for us to adopt, and which enabled this transition as well. So just to check, we did a survey, and we asked around 42 CXOs across the organizations in India, and we asked, how were you able to adapt to this remote working? And the answer that they said is that already 75% of the tools for collaborations were within the firm or was readily available. All of you would have heard about adoption of Zoom, which has gone up to around 75%. But there are a lot of people who has been using Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Skype, and various other platforms, which has been used for collaboration and for working from home. The other trend that we are also seeing is the adoption of the cloud and managed services, which would enable to keep the lights on and to help streamline work and collaboration as well. So the collaboration and adoption of technology has not only lived and has not been in existence only in the tools like the Zoom, but it has been across. So whether it is from the desktop laptops, VDI and BYOD has become the norm these days. I will speak specifically about some of these things as we go about. But communication and collaboration is one of the key part And I have listed down some of those common collaboration tools like Whiteboard of Microsoft and mind mapping tools and other tools which is being used by people who are involved in the programming like Slack, Trello, Notions, and others. Application and email has seen a huge uptick. The number of emails which is being sent across has actually drastically increased because of remote working. With all these things also comes into picture saying that how do you secure? So with the new connectivity being provided, there has been an uptick in the security tools, whether it is the data leakage prevention, antivirus, monitoring tools like Intune or SolarWinds and remote working. Access control has been one of the key part because now you are not within the secure network of an organization. You are into a place where you're working remotely, which in our parlance, we call it as an extended enterprise. So you're connecting remotely, and if you have to connect remotely and if you have to access sensitive information of an organization, access control plays a big role. And we have seen a larger adoption of two-factor authentication or network access control and Active Directory and so on and so forth. To enable the whole connectivity and itself, there has been a lot of technologies which has come into, which we call as the remote working connectivity technologies like VPNs or always on VPNs. And there has been solutions which has been provided to keep the connectivity on and to give that experience and the flexibility to the workforce so that they can deliver the work which is supposed to be done. This looks like a good story, but then let's look into industry-wise, and has that adoption been consistent throughout? Probably when we did a research, this is the result that we got. 75%. So the percentage which is mentioned over here is the disruption which has happened to that particular industry. So it is not the adoption of the technology, it's the disruption of the technology. So 75% of people who were working in the financial sector found that they were not ready because of various reasons. And we will speak about some of those reasons as we go about. But for various reasons, 75% of the work which was done by FSI has been disrupted. In supply chain, 60%. Manufacturing and retail operations has been the largest because a lot of work which was done is called as the line work, and which needed enough people to be present in the production facility to deliver the work. So 85% of work has been disrupted. Information technology is probably one of those areas where they saw a less amount of disruptions, but still 25% amount of work is still getting disrupted because there are certain last mile issues, which again we will talk about. Enabling and design and new product development are the two activities which saw the least of disruption and which was facilitated because some of these works were already being done by remote or had the capability of switching over to remote very quickly. So these were some of those active areas which saw the least amount of impact in this lockdown. Now, some of the challenges that organizations and people are facing while working from home is the major issue has been the last mile connectivity. So when we are talking about last mile connectivity, it is the bandwidth constraint at people's home or not having that kind of a connectivity which would enable a video or an audio conversations to happen or exchange of large information through different means, email and various other means. So last mile connectivity has been a big issue. The second is the cost of technology itself was very high. So some of the organizations that we saw previously did not have the requirement of people working from home, and for various other reasons also. Some of those reasons we will talk as we go along. But the cost of technology in where the organization did not see a return on investment of investing in the cost of the technology of procuring the remote working technology before this happened. There is also a factor which is related with laws and regulations. And I'm sure some of you might be following the Twitter and would have heard the Ministry of IT coming back and clarifying that they have extended the work from home facility till 31st of July. But that is only an extension. It is not a permanent requirement. So there are certain laws and regulations which prohibits certain activities to be carried out, especially on the BPO and other places. There are other laws and regulations which is related to the sectoral, which does not enable certain activities to be carried out. So some of those actually has come into picture. In some of those IT companies or outsourced manufacturing contracts required those contractual agreements prohibit work from home because they wanted that activity to be carried out in a secure workspace. In an IT parlance, if we say it is called as the offshore development center, which required the people to come to that particular place to deliver the work, and the remote connectivities were not enabled. So this is one of the contributing factor. Another factor is probably the organization culture. And it was a culture for people to come to office, and it was felt good and to have that interaction, or it enabled that kind of a collaboration to happen when you are in face to face. So the organization always encouraged people to come to office, which is one of the major reasons why there are some impacts to it. The other factor is also the nature of work. Now, let's take, for instance, if somebody has to go ahead and collect an amount of money or an EMI from an individual, especially if we are talking about NBFC, that cannot be done by a remote connectivity. So the nature of work in certain instances also required the people to be on the ground. One of the factor which also led into some of this impact is some of the workforce were not trained to use the digital technology. And they were not enabled to carry out the work efficiently or using collaboration, because it was always kept as a basic idea, and only a limited set of people were trained to use the digital technology, which the organization, according to the crisis management planning and various other planning, deemed as critical. But in a scenario where we are talking about a large number of people being not available for an extended period of time, that was not a scenario sometimes that was not taken into consideration. So that led to certain impact. Then, of course, there are security and privacy concerns. Some of those sensitive information processing and access of the organizational resources through BYOD devices or through a telecommuting was a lot of concern for a lot of organizations, which also inhibited the adoption of work from home. Now, all this is well and good, but there is also a human factor, which is what we call as the emotional stress, which is where you or some of your family members or your distant relatives or your friends and the extended family members might be going through in a scenario or might be affected by COVID, and you are under stress, or there is a general phobia of this lockdown and various other financial stress and various other activities coming into picture, which is also prohibiting some of effective production from happening. A small factor, but very important factor, lack of infra for home office. There is a lot of distraction at home, and there is probably the chairs and tables that we had the privilege when we were in office is not available, which is also contributing to a factor to the effective productivity, and in turn is considered as a challenge in work from home. While I spoke about the laws and regulation, I forgot to mention one more point as well. There are a lot of points like what is the benefit to employees and which would be extended and if the employee is working from home. So there is a huge framework itself on that part which is still to be drafted. So that is something which is also to be taken into consideration. Now, let me talk about some of those things which is related with cyber risk, which is also one of the contributing factor to another work from home, right? And which is something which the organizations are pretty worried about. Between March 13 and 26, within 13 days, we saw around 1,400 incidents of spam emails, which is much more than the annual average that we were looking at. And some of these spam messages were titled with the information Covet. This also contained leading you, because a lot of us were going ahead onto the internet and searching for COVID related information. And some of those links, either through an email or some of the false links which were there, which would take a person to a malicious website. For example, if you run a browsing on your app, mobile app, or on internet, in internet alone, there are 400 different websites for WHO, World Health Organization. So this, and some of the people who is not very careful about looking into the data can be misled to access a different website or install an app which might be malicious in nature, which internally would steal either the financial or the personal information of that individual. We are also seeing that there are 1,000+ systems which is being connected every day, which is the personal devices. Some of these personal devices might not have the genuine software, might not have the appropriate security measures, which would either protect the individual or the organizations from getting hacked or leading to a malicious website. So we are seeing a huge changes in that. There is also attacks, which is cyber attacks, targeted attacks, which is happening. Some of those news you would have already read, like the Kerala state government being hacked for stealing certain personal information. Ransomware is being released, which is targeting organizations and is exploiting the weak connectivity or insecure connectivity between the people who is working from home and connecting to an organization either through an insecure communication channel or using an insecure systems. If you look from a healthcare perspective itself, hospitals and others, people are targeting the hospitals, clinics, and various other organizations to steal information which is related with IP theft or stealing personal information. And they're targeting the remote working and telemedicine video conferencing platforms to get that information and to create havoc in that whole work from home itself. Now, this is the scenario so far, but what we believe is that this new normal is here to stay. It will at least continue until the lockdown is lifted, depending upon the various factors which the government is deciding. And the resumption or full recovery also is another key part which is going to take some time. So we believe that the new normal is here to stay. Now, the secret is of change, and this is one of the quote which I was looking at when we were looking at how should we be focusing on. And I came across this quote which says, the secret of change is to focus all your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So probably this is an appropriate time for us to look into what needs to be done and how can we enable some of these activities from going ahead with. So before we get into what to be looked at, let me just introduce a concept which we have been working on, which is called the future of work. Now, it is a three-dimensional way. The first one is looking at what are the different automation level, what are the things that you can automate right now, which will help you to reduce the business impact. The second is looking at what is the talent category, and do you have the right set of people who will be able to work in this new and changed environment of remote working. Third, how much of physical proximity is needed actually for you to deliver the work or for the organization to get the work done. Now, if you see the first important thing that I think every organization should look into, considering the new normal, is how much of automation can you do, or how much of remote working can you do, is something that you might want to focus on. Some of these initiatives might have already been underway, whether it is the RPA adoption of artificial intelligence, or if you are in the manufacturing sector, adoption of Industry 4.0. So this is another an extension of it, and probably how COVID has enhanced or speeded up the adoption. So that's one more activity that you might want to look into to see What are those work which is there in your organization which can be automated quickly? The second is the talent category. Who can do the work? What are the technologies which is available with you, which you can use to enable the workforce to deliver the work? So whether if it requires you to provide that, and then it is better provided. The third is, where is the work done? And is it really required for the person to actually come to your office premises or to the ODCs and various other centers for you to deliver the work, or can that work effectively be delivered or by working from different locations, which could be the person's home or from other places? Now, for getting a little deep into what and all of the factors that the organization might want to look into, you can look into that from three perspectives, as we spoke about, which is the workforce, and workplace. In the work, you can look into what are those designs that you can look at to minimize the human involvement through cognitive technologies, smart automation. There is also a thought where you can you use robotics for production purposes, for manufacturing purposes, or can you?
Sorry for the intervention. Your audio is a little disturbed. Many people are conveying that. Can you just check? I mean, sorry for the interruption.
No worries. I hope it is better now.
I think Praveen, it is. I think your mic is a bit shaking or something like that, so it is kind of disturbed. It's kind of a fragmented voice.
Okay, sure. So let me try and put it nearby. The other thing that you can look into is what are those smart automations that you can look into, like robotics, cobot.
It's the same, Praveen.
It's the same?
Yeah.
Okay. So smart automation is something you can look into. Process simplification, which is looking at your complete process engineering to see if that work can actually be done and to eliminate any inefficiencies which is there so that the work can be done remotely. The second is to train your employees and the workforce so that they can use some of those digital technologies. It could also mean providing them with the laptops and the data connectivity so that they can work from the remote locations, which will also remove the last mile connectivity issues so that they can provide it. You can also look at greater resilience, which is one of the aspects of risk management, and see what are those events which is going to impact, and what are those critical activities, and how you can ensure that it can be reduced so that the impact which is happening to your productivity is reduced. The third is look at from a larger business continuity perspective, because there is always a possibility till the medicine is identified or a vaccine or a cure is identified that there will be some amount of disruption. Now, what is that level of disruption? We do not know. And we pray that, that the cure and the vaccination is identified at the earliest. But till as such time, it is always better to plan for a stronger business continuity and different scenario planning where your entire workforce might have to work again from home, or a limited number of people might be asked to work from home, or an extended limited lockdown, which means 50% of the capacity is available to you, but 50% is not available. So how would you still go ahead and look into it? So a stronger risk management, the scenario planning is something that we would advise. And if some of those scenarios warrants you to work from home, then you might also want to reduce the risk by considering this as an extended enterprise and looking at the security solutions that you can use so that it will reduce the amount of risk that the organization carries with people working from home. Adoption of a digital ecosystem, if there is some technology which is missing right now, which you need to add, which could help in the collaboration and enhance the productivity, you might want to look into it. By now, fairly, most of the organizations would have understood what are the tool set that they would have to carry. So you can look at how you can enhance that as you go along. Emotional well-being is one of the key parameter, and is something that you will have to keep it in mind while you go about delivering this entire activities, and you're looking at how you can work remotely for an extended period of time, or the current scenario which is happening. So emotional well-being is one of the key factors that should be taken into consideration in this entire planning purposes. Now, some of the things that everybody should do when we are working from home is, one is to maintain a certain good password hygiene. Ensure that you update the systems, tools, and software. Use a secure Wi-Fi access point. There was a survey which was done some time back, and as part of cybersecurity, and what we found is that all the Wi-Fi's at home are not secure enough, and some of the places, I should say most of the places, there are no password, or even if there is a password, it is a very weak password. So this is one critical activity where you might want to look into as to how you can upgrade or enhance your Wi-Fi systems. Wherever possible, use the virtual private network to connect to your organization so that the communication is secure. Run audio and video calls securely. There are different configurations that you can do, whether it is for Zoom or MS Teams. Please adopt some of those best practices which is being released by these collaboration tools which is being provided. So please have a look into that. Lock your computer and mobile phone when not in use. Yes, we understand that you're working from home, but still it is good to practice that, so that the sensitive information stays within the organization and within the device which is permitted to access that. Report all suspicious activities and cyber incidents to your management at the earliest possible if you come across any suspicious activity. Some of the don'ts. As I said earlier, there is a large increase in phishing attack, which we are seeing. So please do not open any mail or attachments that is not coming from a trusted source. Do not install any unauthorized programs on your work computer, or if you're using your personal computer for delivering the office work, please do not install softwares which is malicious in nature or is not trusted. If you have to install it, please consult either your organization or go through the details of that particular application before you install it. Especially beware about the apps that you install in your mobile as well. And one of the quick thing that you can do is probably look into the review, look into the screenshot, and see if that app is genuine app or not. And you can also look at that you're downloading this app from the secure app stores itself. Don't plug in portable devices like the USB without the permission. Do not mix personal and work devices, and do not leave the devices unattended, and please close your work before you finish for the day. And avoid discussing and sharing confidential information. If you're sharing the Wi-Fi with multiple other people, please ensure that you are securing it, and you have a strong password, and you are using additional security mechanisms so that somebody else who is on the same network is not able to access. Disable those connections which might be coming to your network, like the file share or the print share. So if we are not using that, please disable those if you're using a common Wi-Fi in your home, or if you're sharing that Wi-Fi with a lot of other people. So these are some of those aspects which I thought might be interesting for you to look into. If there are any questions, we would be happy to address that. With that, I'll conclude my presentation and give it back to Ashok for taking it further from there. Mr. Ashok? Hello. So I'm not able to hear Mr. Ashok. So Vaswanti or somebody from the chamber would like to do the introduction for Ms. Shobana Ravi?
Rama?
Sorry, I think I dropped back and rejoined. This is all. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I've dropped back and rejoined. There's a power cut, and then I moved back onto my dongle.
And as a bane of working on remotely, right? The last minute connectivity was one of the topics that I just checked on. So back to you, Ashok.
Absolutely.
I've done
Thank
my.
you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Praveen. I think that was a wonderful thing, and you have covered the thing completely 360 degrees, including the emotional aspect of it, which is probably going to be one of the most important aspects when you're working from home. Without wasting much of the time, and I've got a very limited time with Shobna, she wants to go for a meeting, and I don't think she requires any introduction. Everybody probably in an IT industry in Chennai would know her, and she is the backbone of IT at Taffe. So Shobna P. Ravi is an IT Innovation and Learning Officer at Taffe. Shobha has been a management professional with over 31 years of experience in IT, learning and development and change management. Currently, she's Chief IT Innovation and Learning Officer at Taffe, one of the top 3 tractor manufacturers globally. She leads the IT, learning and development, business excellence, and knowledge management. I think that covers the complete portfolio of the brain behind Taffe. She anchors vision to reality plan of the company and deployment along with the execution excellence initiative. She has been awarded the Gold CIO Award of CIO L Enterprise Connect Award twice, and CIO magazine has recognized us as a CIO top 100s in the year of 2008, 9, 10, and 2015. She was honored with a special award of a Cloud Conqueror and the Hall of Fame in 2050. I think that's a wonderful accolade to have. She holds a master's degree, MBA from LIBA, and leadership development program from Wharton School of Management, and a postgraduate qualifications in computer design and system analysis and data processing. Ms. Shobana is very passionate about leadership coaching and change management. She drives the complete learning and development. With that, I will leave it to Shobana to give us insight about how Taffe is primarily handling this change and the new normal. Over to Shobana.
Thank you so much. I think so much has been said by Praveen. I think fantastic presentation on the complete holistic look at the situation. And so I'm going to probably, with your permission, restrict myself to 10 to 12 minutes so that there are at least 1 or 2 questions that I can answer, because I need to hard stop at 3. Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you so much. So just for a very, very good evening to all the participants who are joined in, and wish you all to be healthy and safe. Very briefly, I think those of you who have know of Taffe, but for the others, we are the 3rd largest tractor manufacturing company, and we are almost in the world, and then we are the 2nd largest in the country. We manufacture almost 1,50,000 sale in the domestic market and in the international market together. We have a partnership with a company called ACO Corporation in US, and I think very rarely you will hear that an Indian company having stake in an international global company. Taffe is a significant stakeholder in ACO Corporation, and this partnership with ACO is from 1960. We have 3 brands of tractor: Massey Ferguson, Aisha, and Taffe. We have manufacturing plants all across the country, and we, apart from tractors, we also are in the battery business. We are in plastics and a whole lot of other things. We're part of the Amalgamation Group. Now, the COVID outbreak as a major crisis has impacted the entire global economy and the society. Now, there is so much spoken about it. I don't have to go into it at all. There is enough, in terms of what people have spoken about the experience, it impacts, etc. So, being from a manufacturing company, I think Saraswati wanted me to focus on this specific thing. But what it calls for, any action in this area calls for a very integrated approach, from leadership at all levels. So if you look at it in terms of the impact, the impact is highly dependent upon how the UN, the political leadership at each of the countries, the business, the society, the bureaucrats, panchayat leaders, and eventually it rests with every individual how we react, how we act, how we proactively make use of this situation to actually fight the COVID. Now, the impact of this as it is unfolding, it has actually changed the way we live and work. So typically, being from IT, I would say any kind of these kind of changes takes a very long time to get people to adapt and make it happen. In a normal situation, I think to say that even a 25% of our workforce will work from home would have been a very difficult thing to envisage, plan and do, and we would have thought of a whole lot of mindset issues, the processes, technologies, and the rest of it, and said we will do it, but it might take some time. But COVID has actually, I should say, fast forwarded the whole thing into everybody's life. So manufacturing companies like us are no exceptions. And given that for us, it's so very important, the seasons are so very important. April, May, June is our most important season. And we have to get it going in terms of whatever means to utilize the time, improve the productivity and make it happen. Fortunately for us as an organization, we actually caught this quite early. So the planning went in before the lockdown, at least a few days before itself, we had started our business continuity plan and thought how we would handle it. And this helped us actually to work through this lockdown. Of course, as Praveen mentioned earlier, work from home is possible only if we are talking about, it is also dependent on the nature of the industry. So if you look at ITES services, it is easier, fairly relatively easier to manage than a manufacturing company. For us, it is a brick and mortar, and so a lot of tasks cannot be moving into work from home. So when the BCP started, the situation for us was that we were used to having virtual meetings. We were used to having, using the phone extensively on conference calls, and therefore, to a fair degree, there is a acceptance of not necessarily being in a conference room and face to face. I won't say 80%, but at least 30% of that culture was there. So we had to look at it in a couple of areas. As one is from the point of view of technology. Do we have sufficient technology to be able to make work happen, at least in during this lockdown period, in terms of looking at plans, looking at in terms of the future, in terms of making it work, and be able to come back when the lockdown is over, be able to resume activities and be able to produce, which means our supply chain relationship with our supply chain vendors, ensuring that they are also able to move. Thing of dealerships have stock, they also should be moving, and do as much work as possible, and so that we are able to resume work comfortably after the lockdown period is over. So the BCP is led actually from our CEO's office. CEO himself drives it, and he has every day evening a meeting at 6, where the complete senior leadership meets and looks at how and what needs to be done and what's happening. And there is everyday movement. So you'll believe we are one of the few in the industry who have still managed to sell in this lockdown period. Fortunately, there is some kind of support at least coming from government in looking at agriculture industry a little differently. But however, that's a big challenge, which just shows the spirit of the people in being wanting to work, continue to work. And that's been possible with our very rigorous review from the senior management team led by the CEO to see whatever opportunities we are there, we are active, working, and contributing to what should be happening. So we put in the whole mechanism. What we put in is as per our ISMS process. The procedures were put in place. We got additional licenses for the various tools, like the GoToMeeting. We introduced the Microsoft Teams, which is being used as the big time communication tool within the organization. Of course, we had the Dorsava and the rest of it. So we have increased those licenses. We have bought some additional hardware, software. In fact, getting hardware and software has been a big challenge, because by then the transportation almost stopped. And even if you place an order, we couldn't get systems. Work from home means in a manufacturing company, for people who need to be connected, systems is very important, and all of a sudden to get machines for everybody to work from home was very difficult. So we hired some. We actually, even some of the machines which were old and had come back, we tried, some kind of maintenance work being done, some memories being increased, etc. And then giving it to the users. Giving to the users to take it home again was a big challenge. How do you deliver the machine to home? Because people couldn't come to the office, and we had to get tremendous amount of efforts in being able to deliver the laptops, connected machines to people at their houses, so that they can stay connected and work. And so this was done for almost all functions which basically by the nature of work could continue to work. So if you take it, as Praveen said, IT is simple. R&D people can work from home. In terms of supply chain, in terms of finance, in terms of new product, all these people had to be given equipments, connectivity, and most importantly, connect them from a safe way, SSL and VPN. And so we connected almost every day. There used to be 50, 60, arrangements made for people to be connected. And the IT went through a tremendous challenge in doing it, because transportation was a problem, coming to office was a problem, but the infrastructure team continued to work and make that happen. If you look at R&D cannot connect. If they connect, they need to access the drawings and be able to work on them. That's a major challenge. So fortunately, our technology investments in terms of systems, processes, and architecture has been such that we could do it. So we are on basically an SAP framework on SAP HANA. We use Windchill for new product introduction. So these are all very good, fantastic technologies, and we have invested very well into securities and networks, etc. So we had to improve our bandwidths. We had to improve in seeing how do we manage, get extra connectivity tools, and we managed to do that, and that's something we are operating fairly. I wouldn't say I can be proud about what we managed to do, because R&D is a challenge, because workstations are required, and then from workstations we managed to get these connectivities. We've got at least focused on saying at least all those people who are working on new product, they should be able to get the connectivity and continue to work. So we had to, as Praveen said, the focus is in terms of not just the nature of work, but also the priority to the organization. Which are the functions that needs to operate in this situation, so that we don't lose our rhythm and the ability to compete in the marketplace, those functions have been identified and they are all being supported to work from home. Apart from them, in terms of, we have provided, of course, the most important, the DLP protections and the endpoint security has been configured. Recently, we had, in spite of, I think it might be interesting to note, in spite of the lockdown, we had our data center audit done remotely. And I was very happy to note that the auditors were very keen that as IT, let us be an example. Let us do the audit remotely with showing all the evidences. And for us, it was important that at this point of time, whatever we are done and are doing also gets audited. And we came through the audit very successfully. And interestingly, one of the suggestions was that in terms of the impact to business that we give to various factors, infectious diseases doesn't figure out to be getting a very high percentage. And we realized that that's something which we should, increase the impact to the weightage given to impact to the business to be increased. I think such things has never been seen in our generation. So I think the importance to it is very, very high. Coming to the second part in terms of working from home, is it in terms of becoming a normal as it goes? For us, it would never turn to be 100%. Any of the manufacturing companies can't do, but to a very great extent, it provides us an opportunity to actually improve productivity. What we have noticed that most people have been saying that the productivity has remarkably improved in the way they work. They seem to be working much harder, much smarter, and the much more productive. So that's the comment that's coming from people. Given the situation, this gives a strong learning in terms of going ahead. How do we look at it in terms of releasing more floor space, having more people working from home, including the various locations, so that actually we need to release cash. We really need to release money to be able to bring in more investment. The way the scenario is today, it is going to impact every company in their revenues. And when revenues are stuck, we need to look at how do we cut our costs, and that the cash released, if it can go into investments. As Praveen said, automation is a must. We had great plans on automation, both at the manufacturing side, in the supply chain side, into new products, into sales and marketing, CRM, customer experience. And now all those things will have to go a little in the backseat until the market actually starts moving. And as it moves, we have to ensure that we bring down the cost so that our productivity is higher and we can release cash for the investments. So that's what any company would be doing. And we are looking forward to identifying based on the nature of jobs, which are the areas that we can encourage to move more into work from home as the lockdown gets lifted. As Praveen said, also it's not going to be a short term. I think as it looks like it might stretch to July and little later, and we'll have to continue to maintain the social distance and the necessary precautions to stop the epidemic. And if that is the case, then investment into technologies and it becomes a must. The third part of it is in terms of not just having the right systems, processes, technology, etc. Is about the people. And working from home calls for a different mindset. And I said that's happening not by any change management. It just has happened because the situation has pushed most people into it. And it in a way, it is good that that's the way you change easily, and then there are no questions asked. What was always debated about being online on financials, on online banking and everything, every common man today is easily moving into completely online. So the third part of it is in terms of apart from the people on the change management is how do we put governance, how do we put as they consider aspects which will look at the emotional well-being of people. So on governance, it's important that people are able to, just like the IT and ITES services, the objectives, the clarity of what should be done to a daily basis gets very clearly monitored, managed, etc. But in organizations, manufacturing organizations, we have systems like what is called as daily management systems, etc. And to look at that on a different paradigm when it is working from home is also becomes very necessary in defining that, how people are recognized, how people are rewarded, how do we do the ensure that the people are working from home effectively, not just by giving by tools and technologies, but also by other disruptions at the home front doesn't happen. How can we help them? And the other part is in terms of that we have looked at it is in terms of introducing a lot of training, a lot of communication and engagement. And we have something called as TAFE University, which I'm responsible for. We have put in a whole lot of courses which are relevant into this context. How do you conduct virtual meeting? How do you interact? How do you collaborate? And apart from that, on leadership traits, a lot of technology courses, manufacturing related, all these have been bundled with a lot of gamifications we have introduced into the university. And we would be amazed to hear that just in the lockdown period, we have almost crossed 1 lakh content completion by people. Okay. So when you say content, don't look at it in terms of 5 hours, 10 hours. The university that we have, the TAFE university we have, it has content which are as small as 2 minutes, 5 minutes. It addresses the learning need of the new generation, which looks at short courses, what is interesting, the way it is delivered, and it being short, crisp, and to the point. So we have a lot of assets that have been created, lot of assets that was created pre-COVID, but now in this situation, a lot of people have come forward to come and said that we will share our knowledge and we will contribute to the content that is necessary for others to know. So whole lot of content creation has happened and a lot of learning has happened, and that has kept our people very engaged. All those who are not able to work on full time on because the work involves being in the office, and it has been very encouraging. We have also put in things by which the family can be involved in some of the courses and application of that, what they have learned. For example, if they learned something on fires, can you involve your children and family to, talk about it and contribute to it? So I think I'm running short of time, though I hope I have covered most what I could within the given time. And my belief is that going forward, whether it is an ITS or a manufacturing company, any industry, will have to make use of this opportunity of working from home simply to improve the productivity and improve the way we can release, cash for the organization, because transportation costs will get cut, space can be released, and people will become more effective. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shobha, for that wonderful insight about how you manage to work from home in a short duration. Do you have some time to take few questions?
I can till another 10 3:15 is my call, so it gives me 3 minutes to join the call.
Okay.
I can go.
So probably we can take few questions.
Yeah.
And I have one question here from R. Ganesh. What type of tool do you use to measure the productivity of the people during work from home?
Okay, so we have created a format into which people log in what kind of work they have done. And because, as I mentioned, in any of our organizations, we have this daily management, which are the metrics and measures are all very well defined. And against those, there is a format which has been provided in which they key it in now.
Excellent. And I've got a question from Mr. C.K. Muralidharan, CEO of Workage. So he's asking, have you looked at augmented reality and virtual reality for your customer experience?
Yes, we have done a lot of work on augmented, both AR, virtual reality, and HoloLens. So we have, in fact, including not just for service, we have also looked at as a marketing tool and also as a learning tool. So some of them, a couple of them, we used it in the export market some time back. And now, of course, it's on a thing, but all the new products, both AR and VR, we've done tremendous work. I think sometime later when things open up, I will invite some of you to our place to actually have a look at the kind of work we have done on AR, VR, and mixed reality.
Excellent, thank you. There's one more question. Any certificate for this webinar? I think we will take that later. And any other question to Ms. Shobna, we can show. So she's got another 5 minutes to leave, and post that we can move to the panel discussion, and Praveen is going to be here with us. And I also got few questions which we will take during the panel discussion, which is going to be moderated by my colleague, Dr. Rama. So any other question to Shobha, you can raise it on the question answer. We can take a couple of more questions. Work from home does not have a firewall. How do you ensure data security and DLP?
Okay, I think I missed telling you something. Thank you for the question. Actually, there is a challenge about it, but we have put most of the important things. It goes through the VPN. And if you look at the security beyond that, there is always a challenge in terms of anybody can use a camera and take a picture, whether it is in office or at home, of any data that you want and transmit. So there is actually, to beyond an extent, that there is always this fear. And there is a lot of tools that are coming in, and I think that will come into being now, which will further improve the security. But we have taken a lot of precautions in to giving on the critical thing. And there is an NDA we have made people sign. So we have the DLP implemented also, so that can track what documents go out and if it is misused. And we have made everybody who is working from home sign an NDA separately on this.
Okay. How do you monitor the quality remotely? I think the question needs to be a little more clear. What quality is the product quality or people working, productivity? This is a question from Mr. Mohammed Usman. I think the question needs to be a little more deeper. So I think, yeah, over to you.
I think maybe he must be talking about quality of work. Maybe in this context, that might be the thing. Yeah. But what we find, I think people are working much harder and smarter, as I said. And when you have these frequent reviews, see, we aren't used to that kind of, in manufacturing companies, in the shop floor, etc., they have daily reviews. These are all part of our way of working. And when similar things gets implemented, our governance system in the organization is very strong. We run through daily management, and we have everything that you do is a project. So there must be a project plan, there's clear scope, team members, and the deliveries are always measured with the results that it is achieved. So when the governance system of review works, then quality comes into place. And today the situation is such, you ask anybody who's working from home, they will say the boundaries have totally collapsed. We don't have time to do anything at home. So if in this context, I would like to mention the working women are finding it most difficult to cope, because whatever they have outsourced at home is no longer outsourced because the helps are not coming. So their outsourcing has gone for zero, but they continue to work both for office and work. So you can see still the quality of work that they maintain. I think the situations that we are going through makes people work very hard and really contribute. I don't have doubts on the quality there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think I've got a few more questions, but I think we will forward those questions to you offline and we can answer that to them. Thank you so much for your time in spite of your busy schedule. And I'm moving on to the panel discussion. And I think it's my privilege. Thank you, Shobna. Thank you. So,
Shobna, yeah. please. Go ahead.
Right. Now, I have a privilege in introducing two of my colleagues in Madras Chamber, and both of them come with a very deep experience in information security. Let me first introduce my co-chairman, Dr. Rama Subramaniam. Is a director and CEO of Valiant Technologies and a co-chairman of ITS Expert Committee. Dr. Rama Subramaniam has been an information security consultant, trainer, and educator for over 3 decades. Wow. So I think probably he's been doing that for a very long time, and I think his insight is going to make a lot of sense to us. He has a significant work experience in information systems, control, and security. He worked with large manufacturing, consulting, and service delivery corporations in Far East, South Asia, Middle East, and Africa. He served earlier as a global chair of Education and Awareness Principles Expert Group of Globally Accepted Information Security, which is in brief called GAISP, based in United States, and is a former Global Accreditation Process Committee of Open Information Systems Security Group. Based in the UK, and where he has established their certifications and accreditation process. He is a charter president of first chapter of ISC2 in India and served on the boards of Dubai, Chennai, and Bangalore chapters of ISACA. He is formerly a managing director of Devo Corporate Services based in Lusaka, Zambia, group operation director in Benton Group of Companies based in Bangkok, Thailand, and commercial director of Dynaspeed Integrated Systems in Mumbai. He holds PhD in MBA, FCA, CISA, CISM, CISSP, Ethical Hacking, CHFI, CSQP, and Security Plus. I don't think any other CX is left for him to do. Welcome to Dr. Rama. And my next panelist, I'm very happy to introduce, is R. Vittal Raj, partner, Kumar and Raj Chartered Accountants, and is also an information security professional. He's a MCCA GC General Committee member. I think with Vittal, I think he's literally done all the possible roles in a Madras Chamber and very renowned, I would say, F1, which is an help desk for anything related with information security and the IT. We always press F1 and then you find Vittal is appearing there. And he is a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He has also done CISA, CISSP, CISM, CGEIT, CAA, CFE, and DISA. His expertise include consulting, assurance, and training in information security, IT compliance, IT governance, enterprise risk management, risk-based internal audit and digital forensics, expert trainer for CISA, CRSI, CGEIT, examination training, training on information security and IT governance. He has directed and managed projects in the areas of information systems, security implementation, enterprise risk management framework, implementation, IT assurance, cybercrime forensics, and cyber law consulting. The list goes on. He is a visiting faculty for premium institutes and various banks, several ISACA chapters in India, and CISA examination, and also provides an in-house training for corporates. He is a specialist trainer in IT governance and Covet, on IT risk management, information security, cyber forensics and cyber law, and ERM, and has presented papers in national and international conference and contributes to various national and international journals. Very eminent two panelists, our own Madras Chamber members, and over to Dr. Rama to anchor it from here and take it forward.
Thank you, Ashok. That was kind of you to introduce the both of us. Am I audible, Ashok? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, right. Thank you. It's a pleasure being with my good old friend Vittal Raj on the panel again, and also have Praveen staying back with us. Before I get on to specific questions that are being asked and to be addressed, just want to quickly pick the brains of the two people on the panel, three people on the panel. When we had little earlier the advent of something called video conferencing, people said there will be work from home will become a reality. They said airlines will close down, nobody will travel, we'll all do it on the web. But nothing like that happened. People still said we will go meet people in person, and video conferencing had very, very limited role. But today, when people say we're going to work from home, it's taken a different dimension. I was recently reading a published work by TCS Public History Committee. It says that they have evolved something called SBWS, Secure Borderless Workspace Concept. And they're claiming, they've gone on record to say, they've got a plan called 25-25. Meaning, in 2025, they'll only have 25% people working on-site, and 75% of the people will work from home. I think this COVID-19 has just not presented a very simple opportunity, but an amazing opportunity where people have revisited their mindsets, the way of doing work, their methodology of evaluating performance and service delivery, and have found that although it is driven by COVID-19, there's a lot of benefit being seen, economic benefit, emotional benefit, personal benefit of employees in saying, let's work from home. Two questions arise. How will this model evolve? Very importantly, is this a secure model? I think this has been addressed by both the speakers earlier. So let me start off by asking one question to my colleague on the panel, Vittal Raj. Generically speaking, Vittal, do you think work from home will evolve to a state, will evolve to the same level of security as we have today when you work from a secure office space?
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Rama, and thanks, Ashok, earlier for the introduction. I think, Rama, thanks for, as usual, putting me in the spot. I guess I could give you a straight answer, but honestly speaking, from my experience of working with a couple of the clients in various verticals and what I have been reading upon and the kind of experiences, I guess that, well, I think I'd like to go back, even though being in the field of cybersecurity, but at the same time, it's not good for me to say this, but cybersecurity is more becoming a state of mind, because the hackers are always at it. You say whatever you want to do, but if a determined hacker can always get his way out. So I think it is cybersecurity is a team game. So even if one player does not really perform, and the vulnerability could get exposed from there. So, and there are always going to be ifs and buts, because the moment you go back home and as Praveen had very rightly pointed out, the kind of different challenges that you face for working at home from your own devices, which could be used by your children for their video classes or whatever, it's going to be a big order, honestly, to say, how are you going to really manage security? And with Netflix becoming more popular now, I think you would rather want to have the video running separate, side by side while you're working. So, so these are kind of situations which we could see panning out. But I'd only split it between the two profile of people, if I can call it, if you can call them the Gen Y, Gen Z, or whatever. And we have the profile of workers from the old age, if I can say, the old age of industrialization. I think what's going to happen is that while the old age is always good at following the rules that are set to them, but the Gen Y, Gen Z always wants to try out something new. So it's time for the cybersecurity products industry to really come up with the need of the time, which is secure work from home options. I think more importantly, as I think even Shobana pointed out, the most important thing is going to be how do you monitor whether the security is really working. So I think it's going to be a very different game going forward. But to answer your question, to say, is it going to be any secure going forward? I honestly doubt it, but it'll certainly become a shade more secure than what we are now.
Thank you, Vittal. In fact, I am very happy to hear the optimism, a shade more secure than what we are now. I have two more questions, one for Praveen, one for Ashok, and then we'll take the questions in the audience. Praveen, you mentioned three factors: work, workforce, workplace. This is what is influencing the way things are happening today. Now, in this context, we have always seen that when work moves from workplace to home under some disastrous condition, for example, when Cyclone Sandy hit the east coast of the United States, one of the casualty was information security. While everybody was busy putting up the systems back to working, they probably let their guards down, and we have reported cases of multiple attacks successfully carried out. Do you see a similarity of that happening during this COVID work from home?
So, thank you, Anna, for asking that question. What we are seeing and what from the data and statistics that we're looking at is there is a spike, definitely, which is happening because it is much related to COVID itself. There are ransomwares which is being targeted to be released for BYOD and for mobile apps. There are phishing emails which is being sent to users because what the hackers and malicious intent people are looking at is that there is a spurt of increase in people searching for COVID. Finding out the data and where what is the statistics on each countries and other places. There are also a lot of maps which has come in and which is very malicious in nature, which shows what is the COVID impact and kind of information. So they are definitely exploiting it. So there is always an increase to it. Now, what is compounding to the factor is also is that certain how prepared you were for allowing this remote working in place. For an organization who had already thought about some amount of scenarios and had actually planned for it, it was working out very well for them. But for people who are uninitiated or have not taken this scenario into consideration and have tested out various aspects of it, yes, there are definitely impact which is happening. So to summarize the answer to you, yes, there is an increase in hack which is happening, targeted attacks which is happening. And yes, people are falling victim to such kind of attacks, and there is an increase in cybercrime.
Thank you, Praveen. Ashok, I have one area where I would like to listen to your comments. This is certainly a paradigm shift happening today. Number of things are changing. Do you think one of the limitations which we will face as we go really whole hog into working from home will be the capability of people to migrate from the way they work in the office to migrating to a different kind of security mindset when they work from home? Ashok, your perception on this?
Yeah, sure. I think, primarily where the people are shifting from work from home to work from office to the work from home, there is certainly going to be some amount of a stress on the system to put information security. The mindset is also going to be different. Because one thing very clear is that your home network is not secure. There's no firewall at your house, and you're using an open internet to do your business packet with your office. So shifting off onto you at the same time, you also can't go tell your employee he can't do anything other than an office work sitting at the internet. So there has to be some amount of a balancing security system should be put in place. Even the devices per se, and there is enough tools and technologies today available to ensure that this is enabled safely and securely, and some amount of a training which can go on to the people. And I can just give one example where we work with a client where about 1,400 people, primarily an average workforce, I would say. They are into e-publishing and IT-enabled services. And in about 2 weeks, everybody moved at home. And first 2 weeks, they had I would say at least first couple of days, they had a little bit of a difficulties in terms of settling down. But now after that, the productivity is absolutely up and running. And we put the most secure system for them to run up and running for them. So I think if you plan it well and manage it, I think this is would certainly be a very effective option.
Thank you, Ashok. I think there are quite a few questions from the audience. So can we start taking them one after another?
Sure.
Right. We have a question from Mr. Jagdeep Naidu, who's asking, how safe is the mobile network hotspots? Can we use them for office work? Ashok, do you want to take this question?
Sure. Mobile hotspots, I presume that you're talking about the coffee days and then probably the airport hotspots or whatever. Any internet for that matter, whether it's an hotspot or you're at house, the security level is the same. The device what you're using should be secure enough to overcome those potential threats. So hardening your machines, hardening your operating system, and ensuring that you don't open up vulnerabilities there, do not install the unwanted softwares and those things, and also putting up a proper protection of antivirus and an anti-ransomware in your machines are very, very important for us to use. Because I would say that it's just not an hotspot, any internet for that matter, we need to be triply sure that it is secure and safe, that safety comes from the device more than from the internet.
Thank you, Ashok. In fact, I think Praveen made this a point and in this list of do not things, don't go to any public hotspot. Okay, can we have the next question, please? Right, from TSS, there was a news that Zoom was not secure. Is it secured now? Vital.
I was pretty sure this question is going to come to me.
So you're the expert on that.
Well, I think, well, let's look at it. If I was running Zoom, okay, and Praveen said that I have a 75% rate adoption. So do you think I want to lose market? I obviously will not. So Zoom I would think that, and as we hear, they are certainly rising up to the occasion to do that. But then that having been said, if you really look at the market and compare the nearest tools which are available, I think all of them have security issues, one or the other. So again, this is a problem because security is always valid at one point in time. Because if there is any change in any of the variables, it could be the environment, it could be the setting, it could be the integrating software or whatever it be, you are actually exposing it to a new set of risks, which is a very good possibility. And since you're always looking at improving things, and as we know by our experience, that Zoom is kind of very intuitive and very good in terms of the experience. So while I'm not really, marketing for Zoom here, but looking at the experience all across, I think many of our friends and circles, they have used multiple software and they say, well, this is really it. So because it provides so much, and mind you, we are Indians, we love free things. We don't want to pay for anything. So I think Zoom has really caught that, and they give you, a significant element which is free, which now all of the other competitors are actually now trying to match. So I think I'm sure they are working on it. They would not certainly like to lose the market, and they have already fixed a couple of the issues that were pointed out earlier. But I think security, again, would always remain anything that's going to run on this kind of platforms is cross the internet and connecting to insecure systems would always suffer the risk of insecurity. So not a straight answer, but I would think that yes, I would feel that any sensible service provider would work on security and not want to lose market, which I think they are doing.
Thanks, Vital. Since Zoom has been so much talked about, Praveen, would you have anything to add to what Vital said?
So I concur with what Vital said, right? If you take into any app, and not only Zoom, but any other app, every app has its own vulnerabilities. And it is up, the point is, it is just like how Vital said, it is a point in time, and it is up to us to see and how we are protecting it. Some of those features which is there in the tool is also left for the user to configure. So that's another aspect that you might want to look into. For example, Zoom also comes with a feature saying that you can have a passcode for every meeting that you have. So are you using that feature? Have you disabled that host has to be logged in first, and then host has to admit everybody else to come in? In every Zoom meeting, and just like our Zoom meeting as well, and if you see on the top, there is a lock on the top, a green color lock icon. Have we logged the meeting so that this meeting can be attended only by those invitees? These are some of those simple steps that you can look into, so which will help you to stay secure and also to protect the information that is being exchanged using various channels. So, well, I would definitely concur with what Vital had said earlier.
Thank you, Praveen. I just want to add one sentence before we go to the next question. It also depends on what is it that is being talked about in the meeting. If you're talking what you're talking today, there's nothing much confidential about it. But if you're using Zoom for sharing sensitive information, yes, I think a lot of questions need to be asked. So I will leave the Zoom here and let's take the next question. An anonymous attendee is asking, how do you see future of job in working from home? I am not sure if I understand this question. It says, how do you see future of job in working from home? It's a difficult question. So let me give to Ashok to handle difficult questions.
Thank you, Rama. I think what he means is that what probably I assume that how do you see the future of job, working from home? I think it's going to be a gig economy. The permanent employment would get shifted on to a productivity-based working from home. One person would work for multiple assignments at a parallel and working on multiple NDAs. And we all will be seeing that thing. I think this were all predicted. It was none of things was unpredicted. Like Praveen has said that, and most of things were predicted. Probably it should have happened in 2025 or so later. Corona fast forwarded the whole world to a 2025. I think it's going to be a gig economy, and there is going to be, this model is here to stay. And the permanent employment would become flexible employment where it's going to be productivity driven and assignment driven.
Thanks, Ashok. That's a nice scenario. I enjoyed listening to the scenario. Next question, please. This is from Mr. Suresha. Yes. Can you tell us more on using DLP tech for data security? Oh, obvious question to Vittal.
I'm not really an expert on DLP, I must confess. But thanks for passing it on, Rama. I would attempt my best to do that. So, DLP, again, as Praveen very rightly said, any of these security management technologies come with a big ask of administrative overhead. So if you do all those things right, they work for you. And yes, if you really look at the solution today, DLP is certainly very good, because if you have set all that right, as regards the what we call as the policy configurations, as regards a data leak tool, it would certainly help you to bring down the exposure significantly. But please do remember that each of this security is always an overhead. So which means that if you want to even put a lock on your door, please mind that there is some element of overhead that's actually happening. So the point really is that there is a significant overhead for you to define or tell the software, hey, this is what I accept as good, this is what I expect as not good. So once the software is configured with that, so the traditional, if you really look at the way the DLP solutions worked, were more of agent-based, which means you'll install something on your endpoint, and that would talk back to its console somewhere sitting across the internet, and it would decide to say, okay, what do I do with this, let us say, incoming traffic or outgoing traffic or whatever. For example, somebody is trying to send a Gmail attachment of a very sensitive Office file. The DLP can certainly, if configured well, help you to arrest that. Yes. But the good thing is that going forward, we have a lot of ML and AI-based DLP solutions which are coming up, which are very, very intuitive. They learn by themselves and they kind of analyze the patterns. And I think that's a good trend, which I would think is coming in the future. So we could find that a lot of these new solutions which are coming up could be much, much easier to administer, much, much easier to install, yet achieve, the security objective well.
Thank you, Vittal. I think the one point you made certainly deserves a lot of emphasis. The success of DLP depends on the way you understand the requirements and translate that into your policy. I'll share a small illustration which I went through. An overzealous DLP administrator said, I'm going to stop all transmission of credit card numbers on my entire network. You know, a policy line saying that any 16-digit numeral, stop the transmission. Not realizing that the whole set of other 16-digit numerals in the world which are not credit card numbers. So when in audit, when he asked him, why have you done this rule? He says, I have no other option. Then somebody had to go and tell him that there's a lot of option, 16-digit number, run through an Lun's algorithm, ask if it's a credit card number, then stop it. So I think DLP success depends significantly on the way the person designing the system understands the logic to be built into the, what as like you said, the agent of the law. So if that can be done, It'll be fantastic. Yeah, let's go next question, please.
I think we'll take one question and then close it.
Probably, yeah. Let's take this last question.
Yeah.
Is there a question coming up for us? Oh yeah, we have a, oh no, it's gone off again. We have a fairly long question from Mr. L. Venkat Ratnam. I am working in a project where workmen are staying away from site. As per government instructions, only workmen stay inside site limits, only can start the work with limited workmen. How to cope up to start work in our project? I honestly don't know the answer to this question. The wisdom of the other panelists are welcome. This talks about specific government instruction of people staying inside the location to start the work and against people who are staying outside the location to start the work. I must admit, Mr. Venkat Ratnam, that I am the least competent to answer this question. If either Vittal or Ashok or Praveen would like to venture an answer, we can take it. Else we will say this is not within our scope of competence.
I agree with you. I think this is not related with information security or the work from home. This is more to do with the logistics. I think I will pass this question.
Yeah.
Same here.
Okay.
Sir, agree.
Let's pass this question. Next, Mr. C. Vijay Babu. Okay. CTS recently faced ransomware attack. How do we make sure to be safer, secured, even we had latest Palo Alto firewalls in place? Well, I think I should take it to Ashok first. I think the question rephrased actually means I have Palo Alto, is it sufficient to come out of a ransomware attack?
I would say yes and no. I would say more no than an yes, because Palo Alto is a perimeter level security. You need to understand the basic, the basis in which the ransomware attacks. So primarily, if you say the ransomware get attacked in majority of the time through an email or using a vulnerability using your remote desktop protocol, or it is using your application vulnerability. And 80% of the time it attacks through a firewall. A Palo Alto may not be probably good enough to stop your virus coming in through the email. So it is important that you need to have an integrated threat protection, which includes digital leak prevention coupled with an antivirus at your desktop level, which should give an alert to you when such thing comes in. And you can correlate it with Palo Alto logs. So some amount of a log correlation and behavioral of application and user behavior is very important for you to track the ransomware, because there is no difference between a ransomware and a corona as of today, because both do not have a solution. So corona vaccines are getting ready, and ransomware, the moment you create a vaccine, the new ransomware comes in. So everywhere it is recommended that you will have to only go after the backup and ensure your backup is up and running. But I think more of an integrated production, holistic is what you need to look at, rather than only looking at in silo of Palo Alto.
Thank you, Ashok. Thank you very much. I think we run out of time. There may be more questions from the participants. Do we take this as the last question on Pradeep Sukumar's question? This will be the last question we will take. What is the new legal framework required to be put in place in order to maintain work from home? Very interesting question. I don't know whether we are quite competent to answer this, but let me try to pass it on to Praveen and ask him whether he has an answer for this.
I should admit that I'm not a competent authority to talk about legal framework because I'm not a lawyer by profession. But from what I know of my limited knowledge, and again, before I say what I know, and we say this is my limited knowledge, and so I might be completely be inaccurate about it. But this is what I know. There has to be a framework which has to be created, which would assure and the employee saying that and how his productivity is going to be measured, how the benefit which he would have otherwise enjoyed of coming to the office and working from office. For example, like an accident insurance, whether it is the travel allowance and the food allowance and various other aspects, how that is going to be covered. So the third point is also saying that how will you provide those connectivity and other things. For example, when he is working from office, the internet is paid by the company, but now he is working from home. Who is going to pay the internet bill? Is it his responsibility or is it going to be paid by the company? And the fourth point is also on the security and privacy. For example, one of the many topic that Ashok, Vittal, and Shobhana also mentioned is how are you going to secure that home Wi-Fi? Will somebody from the office come down and give you a product which is pre-configured with all these firewalls and various other configuration, or will somebody come down from the office and configure your home Wi-Fi and so that it is secure in nature? So these are some of these different aspects that you will have to look into, but majorly it is from the productivity and the salary payment and compensation payment. The benefit payment is going to be considered and looked into. So these are the aspects that you will have to look into. One of the aspects which is also in discussion is how many hours is allowed for the person to work from home. And because in an industry there is a limitation of number of hours. Is that going to be extended or is it going to go beyond than that? So a lot of debates.
Thank you, Praveen. Thank you. I think we are run well out of time. So while we do have questions, we can't take them now. My recommendation would be that if the questions can be compiled, we can probably circulate and get some answers and write a blog on this so that people can benefit from the wisdom of the panelists. So thank you very much. Let me very quickly, in less than 1 minute, summarize what we had today. I think we had 3 messages to take home from today's discussions. Message number 1, our movement to work from home is something which was coming, but what COVID did was to, like somebody correctly said, fast forward the whole thing. In other words, COVID made us go to 2025 in 2021 itself. The second message that came out of today's discussion was what we call 3 Ws. We must look at the work per se, the workforce, and the workplace. And we need to have an integrated approach towards this. The third thing that came out from today's discussion was responding to work from home situation is not just a technology issue. It's a technological issue, it's a behavioral issue, it's a social issue. It also has a legal dimension to this. If all this can be considered, worked around, slowly we make people understand that they can produce, have the same degree of productivity while working from home as from office, I think there's going to be substantial savings in terms of human emotional time and also economics as we move towards a successful work from home model. Thank you very much to all of you for being here on the panel and for this discussion. Let me thank the participants for being here and asking questions. And let me hand you back to Madras Chamber for a formal vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rama. I think it has been a very interesting and engaging session. And you have beautifully said, so there is nothing much to say other than Shobhana Ravi, yourself, Dr. Mr. Ashok, and Mr. Vittal. One thing is very clear by whatever you summarize. It is just very recently, I just saw a news item that one of the big IT company had said even after resuming to normalcy, probably 60 to 70% of the workforce may continue to be working from home. And there have been debates going on as we are discussing about the future of work, even probably the future of, and
I think voice is breaking, Saraswati.
We are not able to hear anything better.
Yeah.
Looks like the session is closed.
Yeah. Anyway, let me take the pattern in the hand, and I would like to thank all the speakers starting from Praveen and followed by Shopna and Vital, Dr. Rama, for being here and enlightening the entire participants about the rich wisdom what you have. And I think it is well presented and well drafted out. I think it is useful to people. And I want to thank the chamber headed by Saraswati, Shankar Narayanan, Madhumati, Vasumati, Swarna, and everybody for facilitating this particular event. And I think overall, I think I will fail in my duty if I don't thank all the service providers who provided the internet for us to stay connected for 90 minutes and the electricity and the other utility services. I think this is new normal. And I would assure you that we will, from IT/ITS committee, we will come up with more such events. We are even thinking of this year, Digital 2020 is going to go completely virtual, and we will keep you all posted. And finally, I would like to thank all the participants for taking your time off and being here. And thank you very much. With that, I'm closing the session. Thank you.
My apologies that my connectivity was lost. Thank you. Thanks for.
Yeah, Ashok, Vittal here. Just wanted to thank Ram because it was his idea to really have a cybersecurity session.
Absolutely. I think well said. Sorry, I missed it. Both to Ram and the entire general committee for putting that idea. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.